It's Swine, your soil field instructor. I'm here to do a soil activity with you all. For this activity, step 1, find a piece of ground. Step 2, you are gonna look super closely at a 6-inch by 6-inch piece of ground, this big by this big. What you're gonna be doing is carefully, slowly, and noticeably, you're gonna go through everything on that piece of ground and you're gonna find stuff that interests you. If there is an animal or a plant living there, make sure to treat it respectfully. Come on in and let's see what we find. The first thing I notice about my piece of ground is there's all these leaves. And what process is happening to these leaves? They're decomposing. And I'm just gonna keep going through carefully, paying attention to everything. I'm seeing more leaves, perhaps different kinds of leaves. This one feels crunchier than this one. And as you can see, they're a different color. This one is really, really cool. It's got its veins still, but the fleshy part of the leaf is gone. Pretty cool. I'm gonna put that aside. Got some more leaves. I've got some flowers and seeds here from the alder tree. So maybe that's what types of leaves these are. Who knows? I'll have to look into that more. I've got more decomposing leaves. A little piece of soil is stuck on there. It's slightly moist. Here I found a tiny baby piece of moss. I love moss. It is one of my favorite organisms. I found this interesting piece of flower, which I don't know what it is, but based on all of these cherry petals that I'm seeing around, I wonder if it's maybe a part of a cherry flower. And yes, also I'm seeing a lot of cherry petals. I hadn't noticed those yet until I found the flower. I'm finding this large mammal here in my piece of ground. So that's interesting and very soft, like the moss. Here's some more skeletonized leaves is what it's called when the fleshy part has been decomposed, leaving the veins. Any idea why the fleshy part would decompose before the veins in a leaf? Right here we got a lichen. That's right. I am liking your thinking. Right here looks like maybe some kind of nut. It's really interesting and it looks like it is decomposing as well. This one looks like maybe it's a maple. Okay, the leaf pieces are definitely getting smaller the deeper I go. They started out big chunkers and now I'm getting little pieces. This looks like maybe it's a samara or a maple seed. If you find that things are getting a little too small for you, there is one tool that can significantly help you with your scientific prowess and also your scientific style, a magnifying glass. It is a-okay if you don't have one. You definitely don't need one, but if you have one lying around, it could be cool. So let me find that skeletonized leaf. Anyway, super, super cool. So I hope when you're going through your own piece of ground that you find a skeletonized leaf as well. I'm finding smaller and smaller pieces. There has been decomposition at work. What is this? Does anyone know what type of leaf this is? It is a needle. I'm thinking a Douglas fir, but that might be a question for Alder. I found a little branch of maybe a western red cedar. So I started out with 6x6, but really there's been so much to find that I ended up on kind of a 2x2 and I'm okay with it. So this soil, it's kind of wet, kind of gritty, which means maybe there's some sand in it. Got some nice texture. And this little piece is a little sparkly. So maybe there's some mineral in there that sparkles. Yeah, definitely we've got a lot of needles mixed into this topsoil here. This soil feels really loamy. Gonna keep going down here, and we're definitely running into less leaf parts the deeper we go and more maybe inorganic material or severely decomposed organic material. I'm noticing the soil is kind of clumpy in a cool way. Yeah, it's definitely even more clumpy down here. And hark, who is this? I have found a tiny, tiny, tiny worm. This little worm is exploring my thumb, so I'll let them continue to do that, and I'll just continue one-handed with my exploration. Definitely seeing a lot more inorganic material. It's really sticking together, which shows me there's some clay in it. Oh, my worm fell. Oh, a rock. I have found a loud bird and a little grub of some sort. So this kid is gonna grow up and be some kind of insect. I could be wrong. We might need to check with Alder on this, but I'm pretty sure this kid is a decomposer. along with that worm that we found earlier. This little buddy seems a little scared though, so I'm just gonna put them down. I'm gonna do this one last handful, and then my gracious assistant who's filming has to go. It's my mom. Thanks, Mom. Here's another worm, a slightly larger worm, but still on the smaller side. There's a couple of holes in this, and you'll notice this piece, it's very solid. This is a chunker of soil, so it's really sticking together more, so we're reaching more clay. We're getting really down into that topsoil and leaving the duff layer behind. There's still some organic material in here, as you can see. That's gonna be the end of my pit. Thank you so much for exploring that with me, and now we're gonna move on to phase 3. And phase 3 is that you're gonna choose the favorite treasure that you found. I'm thinking lichen, and you're gonna take this thing and you are going to name your favorite treasure. You're gonna come up with a backstory for it, and then once you get to know each other a little bit, maybe you can introduce yourself as well. Then we're gonna have a conversation. So this is Earl. Earl loves birding. That blue jay that was just yelling at us, Earl's been watching that one for months and really enjoys that blue jay's sense of humor and personal style. Earl also likes whitewater rafting, which is interesting because that's not a big activity among lichen, who are mostly sedentary folk, but not Earl. You don't always have to fit the mold. Hi Earl, my name is Swine, and I like looking at stuff, I like laughing. Sometimes I watch too much TV, but I also enjoy being in water. So nice to meet you, Earl. Now, step 4. You and your new buddy, so me and Earl, are going to discuss the set of questions that I'm about to give you. Question number 1. What did you find that was interesting? Your next question is, how did you decide what was interesting and what was not interesting? Your next question, think from the place of your buddy and decide what your buddy would think was your most interesting find. So I'm gonna pretend that I am Earl, and while I'm Earl, I'm photosynthesizing. I'm made up of 2 different species of organisms. I love whitewater rafting. You're gonna decide what Earl would think is the most interesting item you've found. Your next question, what is something that you learned here today? And if you say, I didn't learn anything, then no, that is not an acceptable answer. You need to think harder because you can always learn something from every experience. Your last question, what are some questions that you still have or some questions that you thought of during this process? Your next and final step, to put everybody back where you found them, clean up your little area, say goodbye to your friend and tell them thank you for discussing with you. Bye Earl, it was such a pleasure to meet you and thank you so much. Maybe tell them something you appreciate about them. Earl, I really appreciate how even though you're not attached to anything, you still are thriving. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. And I'm about to #ODS challenge you all to perform this same task and then send a video or a picture or a response of you doing it and post it to your Instagram and tag us. Have a great day.